Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co-host and editor of Renegade Animation on RenegadePopCulture.com. Before we get started, we had an entirely different episode planned for release, which had Cosmic Princess Kaguya in the new Zombieland Saga movie in discussion. Unfortunately, due to technical issues and the weather around the time of recording, it ruined the episode and it became unfixable because of technical issues on my side of things. So unfortunately, we will be coming back to those two movies at a later date when things quiet down. Maybe in May, we'll see. But for now, if you like what we do, please give us a like, a subscribe, and a follow on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to us. We are where podcasts can be found, so give us a follow and a like in whatever variation those places tell you to do. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the wild world of animation. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And, of course, everyone's favorite Crazy Lemur, Bree.
Hello. It's still cold outside.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit warmer where I am, but still got 6 more weeks of winter. Thanks a lot, Puxatawny Phil.
Eat that groundhog, just gonna make him into mincemeat.
Anyway, we got a great show for you today. We've got a review of Arco, one of the 5 films nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. But first, we've also got some indie pilots to talk about, or just a general state of indie animation, because it has been a while since we've talked about this topic, and there is actually a lot to talk about.
But first, let's talk about one of those nice, fancy Best Animated Feature nominees for the upcoming Oscars in March, with Arco, one of the 5 nominees, including K-Pop Demon Hunters, Little Amelie, Zootopia 2, and Elio.
For some reason.
Sorry. This was one of the things that we unfortunately had to cut with the now lost episode. Whoa. Because we would have preferred 100 meters to go there instead of Elio, but we're not talking about that right now.
I mean, hey, we're not crashing out like Demon Slayer fans.
Oh god. Anime fans and indie animation fans crash out in the same exact way, and it is exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Rotten Tomato. Like, it's the same shit, guys.
Can you identify the difference between these 2 photos?
No.
It's the same picture. Oh, gosh. So, Arco was an early frontrunner for Best Animated Feature nominee because it showed up way early. Well, I say early in the year because, film festival season starts in May with the Cannes Film Festival. I know people could be pedantic and say, well, what about Sundance? And it's like, no, I don't consider Sundance the beginning point. Even though I do not like the Cannes Film Festival's morality and philosophy behind their existence, I understand and begrudgingly accept that it is the beginning of award season for that side of things. And Arco was one of a handful of animated features that had a out-of-competition screening there, alongside fellow Best Animated Feature nominee Little Amelie, or the character of Rain, and I guess future This Had Oscar Buzz contender This Magnificent Life, from the same director as the Triplets of Belleville and The Illusionist. And then once it hit Annecy, that's when the whole ball started rolling. Like, between Cannes and Annecy, Neon went on a freaking spending spree at Cannes, because I assume everyone wanted to work with Neon because they bought basically every single Oscar contender in the running right now. Like, there has to be a rule change for that in the future, because how can one studio should own the nomination list? And I say this as a huge fan of Neon.
I'm just surprised they have the capital to acquire just that many titles in a single festival, frankly.
I'm wondering if anyone's like, where did all the money go? And Neon's like, don't ask. Like, you guys kind of forgot what happened with A24 and Mubi. Don't ask about us. We don't got any skeletons. Maybe.
Yeah. God. No, but it's crazy how much this award season's the Neon WB show.
Very much. It's very fun to see this big of a shakeup, because Universal has very little presence unless you count Focus Features, because it's an adjacent studio to Universal because of Hamnet. But outside of that, it's like, oh, the one Song Sung Blue nomination and the one Jurassic World Rebirth nomination. Searchlight Pictures completely screwed up their releases, Justice for the Testament of Ann Lee and Rental Family. And A24 luckily got in right before that bomb of drama dropped about the Sadfi brothers because of Marty Supreme's success. Though apparently Neon couldn't somehow spin a reason for people to support No Other Choice, man. Freaking justice for that movie. God dang it, man. No nominations. Freaking sentimental value my ass. That shouldn't have been in there, but that's just me. But anyway, Arco did very well at Annecy alongside Little Amelie. And then at Animation is Film, both of those movies did extremely well, taking home mostly the main awards all around. Which is funny because they took the exact opposite award at both Annecy and Animation is Film. Like, Arco took home the main Annecy award, I think, if I recall. But then Little Amelie took home the main award from Animation is Film, while Arco took home the secondary major award at Animation is Film, but, vice versa. And I'll say this, Neon did tangentially better with the release of Arco, because at least they put it out in a month that made sense, kind of. Even though they still need to do better. Get the Arco out there in December, man. Nobody was going to go watch SpongeBob. Apparently, I think, SpongeBob and the Smurfs made their budget back, but they didn't make, their 2 times profit modifier. So it's we barely scraped by money because nobody wanted to watch these 2 movies. And Arco just could have gone in and gotten it, but what do I know? But yeah, let's talk about Arco. This is if I recall, this is the first film by the director. And here's some fun facts, because I got to talk to him a little and heard his Q&A at Animation is Film. They took 4 years or so to craft the script and the shots that they wanted, and they only took a year to animate the whole movie.
Impressive.
And people were asking me, that sounds kind of nuts. Is this like a MAPPA thing going on, or is this like a Castle of Cagliostro situation? And it's no. It's what happens when you give your team time to just lay everything out, and then you can go into production without having to spend the overhead of possible reshoots or reanimation, because your directors or producers, depending on which project I'm referencing to, it could be any, you had to redo that stuff, which takes months because of all the rendering and animation and what have you. Nope. Arco, the team behind it, knew what they wanted, so it was just a brisk process of getting it all done. And it's not like this was a small team either. I think, if I recall, they said they had 100 animators.
Oh, damn. I mean, then that makes sense why that timeline matches up. I mean, if you have that kind of horsepower... It's
impressive and absurd, because we hear about this all the time with Hollywood productions. It's like the creators or writers come in and say like, hey, listen, we got a great idea to where we don't need to spend the money. But the studio is like, but we need to spend the money. For what? For overhead, just in case. And it's like, well, if you started production without like a third act, we wouldn't have to worry about the overhead. But what if we do? Then we take care of it when it happens. Oh, God. And it's like, if you're planning way too far ahead with reshoots and such, I don't know. That just sounds like bad management from executives, the way I see it. Even though I know sometimes, a film production pipeline is not a straightforward line. It's a roller coaster. But this story is about a young girl who discovers that, well, a rainbow in the sky is not acting like a traditional rainbow, because the base premise of this movie is every time you see a rainbow in the sky, it is someone time traveling. Essentially, she encounters this young boy who has traveled from the future and has crash landed into her time, which I think, if I recall, I saw the movie today again, that it was like 2075 in the time a majority of this film takes place in.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh boy, we got like 50 years before we get to this part in time, people. If we survive that long.
But we have dinosaurs in the classroom. That's hella sick.
I mean, that is pretty those classrooms are pretty sick. I'll agree with that. And it is all about the girl and the young boy bonding, becoming friends. And I'll say this up front. People are going to say this is a very sweet movie. I agree. But you kind of have to put an asterisk next to it, because neither of these future settings that you see in the movie are ideal. And that's because I think everyone started making their cool foreign animated movie around the same time when the pandemic hit. Because everyone, when I went to Animation as Film, was like, yeah, we started production in 2020 and yeah, you know what happens. Yep. And then just the absolute garbage fire, like dumpster fire, that has unraveled since, with everything going on in the world. And the director was like, we need to make a movie that's like a warm hug. That like, things are going to be crazy and horrible, but all that we can do is wish for better. And that things will get better. It's going to take a hell of a time, though, but I digress. What did y'all think about this movie? Because I haven't seen this since October, and I still love it. I know a few people who were kind of like, on it, but, I mean, it's tough, because Neon is following up their now third best animated feature nom after Robot Dreams. And while I think I still prefer Robot Dreams in a lot of ways, Arco is still so damn good.
I agree that I think Robot Dreams is a little bit tighter of a narrative, but this, honestly, out of the 5 best picture or best animated feature nominees for this year, Arco, it's tied with Little Amelie as far as just the artistry and the story. And when people were describing this as like Ghibli-esque, I thought at first they were just kind of, hyping that up, because no offense to most of my cinephile friends, but most of their like foreign animation consumption doesn't really go past Miyazaki. But now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, the comparisons make a lot of sense.
No, like, this feels very like mid-90s Ghibli, but in a good way.
Oh, easily.
And also, this movie is very, very French.
Yes.
It is so freaking French. Like, the way the execution of the dialogue, which, let's nip this in the bud right now. Everyone's biggest criticism of this movie is the English dub cast. And on one hand, if you're a total outsider for this stuff, you'd be like, what's so bad about it? There's Mark Ruffalo, Natalie Portman, Will Ferrell, Andy Samberg, Flea, America Ferrera, And then, of course, the robot who's voiced both by Mark Ruffalo and Natalie Portman, they do the, voice at the same time thing. And, it's been described as grating and stiff. And it's like...
Did we listen to the same dub?
Right?
I mean, granted, I'll say that, I think Mark Ruffalo and Natalie Portman are the quote-unquote weakest parts of the dub.
But also, they're the ones who have the least amount of VO experience versus every other actor here who's done at least 2 or 3 animated features.
Exactly. Will Ferrell, Andy Samberg, and Flea
America
are the
Ferrera.
highlights. Yeah, and America Ferrera. Oh, yeah, she was in How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, she's Astrid.
But it's also, have you not seen a French movie? I'm sorry, there are some times when I watch a movie from France, you call the voice acting in as rigid, and yet have you seen French movies from time to time where they're just hi, I love you, in abstract ways, okay?
I mean, that's just how they talk. I mean, they're not as animated as American voices. And I know I kind of noticed that with, some UK shows, too. Most people in Europe aren't as animated in the way that they talk, but I kind of feel like that's more of an American phenomenon.
Well, exactly, because it seems like I said, Will Ferrell and Andy Samberg and Flea feel way more nuanced, I guess, in their performances. Flea, you would think would be a lot more energized and animated, but his character is more laid-back brother of the bunch, where Andy Samberg and Will Ferrell are the ones carrying the more kinetic energy of the bunch. And by the way, if you're wondering how they got this cast, from what the director said, and I have to assume this was before Neon picked them up, the director, Hugo Bienvenu, well, first of all, Natalie Portman's an executive producer on this movie, so apparently his wife just knew all these people.
That doesn't shock me.
It's just yeah, I'm friends with Natalie Portman. Oh, can we maybe, and then she's like, I should show a few people this. I think they'd be interested. Oh, that's great. We don't have to go through a Ghibli, who's the studio that does a majority of the Ghibli dubs? Not the more recent ones.
I think that's MIAV Post. I think that's Stephanie Shea and Michael Sinter-Nicholas.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's we don't have to go through that now. Well, it's Neon has never quite had to deal with that, because their first movie was a documentary, which, granted, they did have, I think, if I recall, it was Riz Ahmed as the lead. And then with Robot Dreams, what a convenient way to save a few pennies when nobody talks.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I disagree that this is a rigid performance.
I thought it was natural. It flowed in my ears, so I'm really? And also, because I was joking last night, and I said my hottest, spiciest, girly take of, I think the dub of Princess Mononoke is kind of bad, and Neil Gaiman's localization sucks, just like him. Ha!
Yeah, God, what a time to record this when he released another statement thinking he was going to get out scot-free when everyone's just no. Insert gif of Leo DiCaprio, Wolf of Wall Street gif here of that line read. And yeah, it's also Neon didn't really give us a choice at Animation is Film. We were watching the dub because it had a bunch of names, big names on it. And it's you know what? Cool. I'm about to watch 5 or 6 movies with subtitles. Get me 1 or 2 with an English dub. Fine. It's people just need to expand how dialogue is delivered in different parts of the world and such.
Seriously.
I mean, hell, that's why anime is so expressive, because since you can't animate with a Disney movie budget at all times, unless you're one of the few studios that can, you're going to lean heavily on your voice actors to deliver everything. So I find this movie to be, like I said, it's sweet and optimistic, but it's a somber world that they all live in. The far future, we don't even out how far away ahead the future is for our main character, Arco.
I think the Wikipedia says he's from 29 something, so I think this is like 700 years in the future, or like 900 years?
2932 is what it says.
Oh, yeah, okay. Because they're basically having to pull a Jetsons and live in the sky in these bird colony looking homes and build and colonies and such, because they're like, yeah, we're going to give the world a rest. What do you mean by that, Arco? What did y'all do? Or I guess since he's from the future, what the hell did we do? And it's like, everything.
Yeah, I'm guessing the Attack on Titan ending happened.
Oh, no.
Oh, God. And then with the 2075 time setting, it's like, oh, this looks pretty normal, very French sci-fi looking. No, everyone's houses live in a dome, like under a dome. And no, not the Stephen King story, Under the Dome. Though it's kind of like that in some regards. Anyway, the situation there is just basically, yeah, the environment's gonna screw us over. And there's the looming threat of a huge forest fire that's just gonna completely wreck everything. Like, there's so much dialogue in this movie that's like, this is not normal. This is kind of not scary, creepy, but like, it's a little unsettling how normal this is for everyone now. Like, robots are teachers, robots are policemen, robots are repairmen. The one friend of Iris, the lead, was like, oh yeah, we have a bunch of supplies for months now. I'm sleeping on a pallet of cans of beans. And it's like, ha 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 ha. And it's like, that just sounds like your dad's a doomsday prepper, dude. Like,
yeah, seriously.
I mean, what do you all think about, like, the tone of this movie?
It's definitely... I wouldn't say necessarily it's bleak, but it's definitely a bittersweet world.
Yeah, there's a little hint of me depresso in there. Like, going back to what I said about it being very French, especially with, like, the robot character, which honestly made me, like, tear up. It's very, like, introspective, I feel.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, people can say the writing or acting is rigid. It's not. But it is, like, what could have been. Like, would all the humans in the 2075 time period be here if they all just did a little better? Like, even the ending is the girl being the one who comes up with the bird colony Jetson style living situations. And it's like, is that what we're going to have to do now? It's like, we screwed up the Earth a little too much. We got to not leave it, but we got to get up off it so we can let the Earth be like, okay, Earth, we're going to stay up here for a few decades, maybe more, and we're going to let you heal. Or just like what some places are doing right now, like in Thailand. I think it's Thailand. They like have these huge buildings that are just covered in nature and such. Like it was some kind of post-apocalyptic, like Last of Us style wasteland. Which it's not. It's like, it's not, these aren't like Mad Max time periods. It's just a very, what's a good word to describe it? Like like futures, like and such. It's very, it's a different kind of dystopian future in some regards, even if it doesn't have the same imagery or iconography that you think of dystopian.
Right.
But I do think there is still a message of hope throughout the whole movie. Like, there's no real bad guy, except for maybe the robots who try to grab the kids and such. But even then...
Not really.
Yeah, like I said, there's no real bad guy. It's like that Ghibli nebulous, like, humans are the biggest bad guy there is. And I don't know how many movies we have to tell y'all about that, but apparently we gotta keep doing it.
Yeah, but like the thing that kind of took me back in a good way with like Arco, and this was actually kind of bold that they did this, but the ending is that Arco kind of faces like a little bit of consequences too. When you actually think about it's like, wait, no, this is actually really fucked up that is happening to him. Is that his family spent, decades trying to find him, and his parents are old and his sister is now an adult, almost middle-aged.
Yeah, that, I I was not expecting that, especially given the nature of their time traveling abilities. But no, because they spent all that time trying to find him, like, yeah, of course they're going to age in real time.
I mean, that's why so many like sci-fi stories don't want to deal with that thing, because it's a little too depressing. But some of the better sci-fi stories out there do tackle that theory. Like, there's this one anime movie called Lily Cat. It's basically like an amalgamation of 80s sci-fi movies that they all saw, like The Thing and Alien and what have you. Though throughout like this mostly overall cheesy sci-fi monster movie, there's a moment where the captain of the ship that they're all on is like, how old do you think I am? And one of the people goes like, you can't be that old. You can't be older than me. You look like maybe 20 years older. I'm 150 years old. And what about her? She's been on the ship alongside me multiple times. How old do you think she is? 51. And it's like, yeah, time travel isn't quick. Or in that case, space travel isn't quick. There's a reason why everyone's like, but we got these rockets and stuff. We could go to the moon and Mars quicker now. No, we're still like miles, thousands of miles away from other planets. And especially since it seems like they don't imply that these time travel suits have tracking in them, you're going to spend a whole lot of time finding, like, the parents and Arco's sister were going to spend a hell of a time trying to find him, which, yeah, I guess people could be like, yeah, why didn't they have some kind of tracking device on him? And it's like, who cares? That's not the point.
Yeah, the point is Arco's actions had consequences.
Yeah, like, that's the same logic of people that are like, oh, Jack and Rose could have fit on, like, the bed frame. I'm like, that's not the point!
Like, the bed frame or the door frame or whatever was going to sink into the water and make it bad for both of them. It works on an emotional level, and that's what I like about this movie. It works on an emotional logic level. It shouldn't have to, like, don't think too hard about time travel. Because when you have to go down the Disney live-action remake route of having to explain every little minor detail.
Oh my fucking god.
Like this was BuzzFeed 2012. It's like, no. Who cares? Do you actually care, or are you trying to be a smarmy little jackass on Facebook?
Yeah, it's like, we have to show why the townspeople don't like Belle. It's because she wears shoes, and she reads, and she's an inventor.
She's a modern woman. It's just like, wow, that seems kind of short-sighted and ignorant of those town folks. Yeah, that's the point of the story. And then, god damn it, that stupid freaking live-action remake was like, oh no, they were all under a spell.
Mm.
Oh, and Gaston is an asshole because he has PTSD. Like, fuck off.
It's like, god dang it. See, that's why, even though it's not like my favorite movie or anything, and it's kind of tainted now because one of the directors decided to be a little Zionist, you know, one of the Disney animators from the 90s who did that Jesus movie, the 2D one last year. And they were like, you watch that movie and it's like, okay, how do these magical animal crackers work? And the whole movie is just bluntly saying, who cares? It's magic. And I understand that sometimes you kind of have to explain how it works. But at other points, if that's not the point of the movie or show or whatever, who cares? This movie is on an emotional level. That's how most movies are. It's like how, would you really be saying all this stuff about the Wizard of Oz and such? No, you wouldn't be, because Wizard of Oz is a perfect movie because it works on a level where you are entranced and enthralled into the world and story. So you're not asking stupid questions like, are you telling me the witch has never touched water before? And it's just like, yes, in this world, in logic, yes. Are you telling me people didn't go behind the curtain at any point to see the wizard? Yeah, who cares?
It kind of goes back to, like, too many people focus focus on the plot when themes and story are just more important.
Like that, it really is like there was a recent article talking about how film studies and film classes are like all around the US, whether it's just like, yeah, I can't stand still and watch a 90-minute movie or whatever. I can't watch a movie without being on my phone also at the same time. And it's like, golly, attention spans and cognitive understanding of how stories work is so fucked right now.
Like, the only time you should be on your phone if you're watching a movie is if you're taking notes.
That's the thing. That's the only reason I would take my phone out at a theater. But even then, I'll wait until the movie's over to take the notes and such. Unless I'm like in a theater by myself.
Yeah, that is fair game. It's like, it's your house. You can do what you want.
Or like, whether I'm at a theater by myself or at like in my house, it's like, who cares? But if you're at a packed theater and you take out your phone, I am going to sneer.
That shit.
Yeah, I'm going to sneer at you. And it's not hard. Like, movies and shows are having to be dumbed down because people don't have attention spans because of YouTube, TikTok, and like probably go further back and to say Vine was also the thing, like the reason why attention spans were dying. And it's just like, because if you try to overthink a movie like Arco, you're watching the movie wrong. And I know some people are going to be like, there's no wrong way to watch a movie. Yes, there is.
Yeah, in this case, that definitely is.
It's like, shut up. Because the beauty of Arco is just watching the two kids bond. And like, the three brothers that are in the movie, it's funny how they try to come off like bad guys with some of their wording, but they're not really bad guys. And maybe if this movie was a little longer, I would have liked to have heard their explanation a little more fleshed out about why they're chasing after Arco and such. Because, I mean, they tell us it's like long time ago they saw a rainbow, like someone time traveling via rainbow suit and such, but nobody believes them. It's like, okay. And then like I said, I think I would have added a little more time for them to have the switch up to being good guys more. But I do think, all things considered, since they only had 89 minutes, they did a good job with their arcs. Like, they're very, since we're talking about Ghibli-like experiences, they are like Nausicaa to maybe Porco Rosso era Ghibli characters.
Yeah, I was thinking like specifically the like the pilots from Castle in the Sky.
Yeah, like they're the pirates, they're the mining workers and such, they're the other sky pirates from Porco Rosso kind of energy and such.
You know what? I was actually kind of leaning more towards Kiki, but that might have been just me.
I could see that. Because they're not really bad people. They're just, if three guys who you don't know about came up to you and said, hey, we need to talk to that boy. And it's like, no.
No, my nanny robot said, if anyone does that, to run.
Yeah. Now, there's something that's like really interesting thematically, is how the parents in the movie, I don't know if I'd say they suck, but because of the time periods that they're from.
I think they're in capitalist hell.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, you hear the daughter, Iris, go, oh yeah, they work all week and then come back during the weekends only. And it's like,
what the hell are they doing?
And it's not even like they're ambassadors or something. Like, they're clearly just office workers.
That's the thing. And again, don't think too hard about it. That's not the point. It's the fact that, well, with the consequences of the actions of Arco's made them wait so many years to find him. And, well, that's time lost because of work. And I know people could be pedantic and nitpick the whole, like, don't choose work, choose family and friends and stuff. And it's like, some people can be extremely sarcastic and cynical about it, saying like, well, I need to pay the rent and I gotta work. But that's really like the point of the movie, is that like, don't miss out on time with your family, whether your parents, not having time for your kids or kids not having time for their parents. It's like time moves fast, especially when you get older. Like when you're a teenager, you're like, time is moving so slow. I was like, golly, we're already in February now. Like, what happened there? Like, it's a beautiful movie, just how, like, it doesn't overcomplicate things with its structure and execution. And that's what makes it a really good movie. It's very art-driven in its approach to storytelling.
I'm just kind of repeating myself with what I say often about French animation is, like, they can be silly, they can be action-packed, but they also have a tendency to tell more sophisticated and nuanced stories, and this is like there's a lot of there's a lot of thematic weight to this story, even in just like 89 minutes.
And well, it's funny because I think a lot of foreign animation, at least in Europe, functions like stop motion, like production pipelines in a lot of ways. Because it's like, okay, we got enough money for at least 70 minutes. We cannot afford to waste any time. We got to know what our story is, get it down, and if we have some time to maybe make a scene or two that we can adjust, cool.
It's the measure twice, cut once method.
Which is how, like, All You Need Is Kill did it, which even then we still criticize the story a little bit from here and there. But I think really the closest comparison you can make with this in Ghibli is the music, because that, like, nothing against Arnaud Toulon, whose score is sweeping and majestic and beautiful. It sounds a lot like a Joe Hisaishi score from something like Children of the Sea or Princess Mononoke. Not a bad comparison, by the way, all things considered. It's just an observation. Because otherwise it's more French sci-fi than Ghibli sci-fi. Because even like the robots, they're not bad, especially Mickey. Mickey is definitely an MVP of the movie, because even though like Mickey's just like this kid, he doesn't exist. Why is he here? He's not in my database. They still went out of their way to save the kids when they were in trouble and such. And that scene in the cave, tear
Heartbreaking.
And I know one of our mutuals was like, why couldn't they just replace the robot's memory? Did they go back and get the robot? And it's just like, no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't fucking matter.
No, it doesn't fucking matter, bro.
It's like, don't you remember the Linkin Park song? In the end, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, Arco is just a delight. And it's one of those few festival films that comes through the festival circuit and is actually as good as they make it out to be. Yeah, I can understand why some people are now kind of miffed, because it's like, man, this movie's amazing, but K-pop's going to take the win. And it's like, listen, I get it. If I had choice of who won, I would pick Little Amelie. But I'm sorry that K-pop Demon Hunters became the biggest, hottest thing alongside Sinners last year. You can't control what becomes popular sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
But go see this movie. I can't wait to own this on Blu-ray, and I'm curious to know if Neon's going to go through Criterion with this, or if they're going to just have their own Blu-ray like they did with Robot Dreams and such. But yeah, I mean, like, any final thoughts before we move on to the indie animation discourse?
Please, guys, if you can see this in a theater, go see it.
Like, it's stunningly beautiful. The animation is wonderful. The characters are nuanced. It's just something refreshing in animation, which is something apparently a lot of people say they want, but then don't go see the movies. Anyway, if I stew in that thought process too long, I'm going to get mad. So, the current state of indie animation. Well, I would say in a lot of ways it still kind of has stagnated, but there have been some small steps to improve how things are going. But again, baby steps. This isn't going to become a night and day thing with, like, changing the industry overnight. But we're talking about this because, Glitch released a new trailer for Game Oververse. And, we've talked about in the past that funding and paying animators and all this and all that jazz and having proper production pipelines were huge issues with indie animation. It's time to move our crosshairs to talk about other topics. Because we went through a couple off-screen and, behind the scenes pilots over this weekend, and we started to notice some new trends, per se. So let's start with the first one. With the release of the Game Oververse trailer, and no, we're not going to partake or give any bad animation take an inch or an olive branch of peace to discuss this topic, but when people hear the criticism of a lot of indie animation is starting to look alike, they're not saying everyone's just literally making the same show. To me, what I mean is the fact that Glitch, for better or for worse, is starting to have a in-house style of what they want to greenlight and what they choose to support. And it just so happens that Digital Circus, Knights of Guinevere, and Game Oververse all have that we're going to take something nostalgic and family-friendly and warm and safe, but make it twisted.
Trademarked.
Yeah, so what do y'all think about that? Because that's how I stand right now, because I know a lot of people are super excited for Game Oververse, and I'll say this, I was really impressed with the humongous entertainment adventure game look aesthetic that the trailer started out with.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looks like those Freddy Fish adventure games, or Pajama Sam, or Spy Fox, I think was the other big one.
Like the Jumpstart games.
Yeah, the Jumpstart stuff. Like, it looks exactly like those games. And then it becomes very quibby, but instead of the horrors of nebulous, blobulous IP strangleholds that Warner Brothers Discovery has, it's video games.
You just called it quibby, which is a different type of horror.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
No, we'll get back to Quibi animation someday, because I think that's a rabbit hole. Have you guys ever talked about the Quibi animation? Or the Quibinations?
I don't think so, because I never had the Quibi app.
No, but I'm sure the Internet Archive has it. I am sure of it.
I don't recall any animation going on there. I remember there was a horror show and...
No, there's that, animal, Zodiac show. That was, trying so hard to be BoJack. I
don't remember that at all. It's it became that, well, isn't that what the pilot that everyone wanted Adult Swim to greenlight?
Yeah.
Quibi?
Learning with Pibby.
Pibby, thank you. But with video games...
I mean, kinda. I thought, this is closer to, a more adult version of, glitch text than that for me.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see it as a mix of both.
Listen, I hope it's good. I want it to be good. I'm not saying I want Ross O'Donovan and Aaron Hansen's pilot to fail. I mean, the guy's been trying to make this work since, almost a decade now. And there was just no time to do it because of funding and other nonsense getting in the way. So now it's cool. I hope that the pilot is good. But the fact is, there are still some problems with the fact that, is this really what they wanted to make? Or was this really what Glitch Productions wanted to support? Or did they choose this because either the creators knew that because of their connections with, of course, back when Game Grumps was huge and Steam Train, and the tangential connections with Newgrounds and whatever got vomited out of there, and with what Glitch thinks the algorithm is going to like. And let's also nip this in the bud right now. Just because Knights of Guinevere hasn't announced an episode 2 or an episode list or has been officially greenlit doesn't mean it got canceled. Do you guys understand that? Apparently not, because we've had to talk about this, that And I don't know how many more times indie creators or people like Vivi have to talk about this. Animation takes time and freaking money.
Yep.
Especially 2D animation, and especially with the fact that you apparently want movie quality animation on a tiniest sliver of a fraction of that sliver of a budget.
And, like, here's the thing, too, because I've been looking at, like, Glitch's job postings for a while. They didn't have a 2D animation department before this. They have to build that all from scratch. They are primarily a 3D pipeline. They are hiring people for 2D. That takes time.
Like, there aren't that many 2D animators out there anymore because of the, like, partially because of the shift to CGI. And now people are going to, like, animation schools or whatever, and they're probably being told, hey, by the way, you're probably going to want to know how to do both, but mostly CGI animation. Because that's what they want. And that's what a lot of people want. And I know that it can be a little soul-crushing because you probably get into animation because you watched old Disney movies or what have you. And they're just not there anymore. That's why it's like a hassle and a half to get the talent for those European 2D animated features. That's why it's always like a French, Italian, Belgium collaboration sometimes. Because, again, the talent's not really all there. And who knows if Disney is actually ever going to make a 2D animated feature again. They probably won't. They're going to have to spend so much time to either retrain or train new people to do a 2D animated feature.
I mean, I think Eric Goldberg's worked with them on and off. I mean, it's like my honest take. As of right now, in the present era, let's just say in the next decade, maybe they'll have like a small handful of like in-house 2D people for designs and maybe to do like animatics. I don't anticipate it being anything beyond that.
Like, they do 2D animation tests, but that's like a given. You do that because you gotta work out the quirks and the physics and weight of how you want your character to move and such, which sometimes a lot of productions don't have that time to even do that, which is why sometimes a lot of CGI can be very generic looking in terms of its movements and designs. It's a production pipeline thing, y'all. Like, even films like Moana and Wreck-It Ralph had 2D animation tests. So stop acting like there's like a small army of 2D animators at the ready. This isn't like some rebel army. Like,
what do they think? There's just an army of James Baxters just like lurking in the background, like right over the hill in Mulan, like right before the Huns go down the hill.
Or like the scene from Popstar where it's like you think that one guy just has a shoddy, shitty farm, but instead he's been just making a humongous weed crop like in the background. You just had to go over the hill, but nobody goes over the hill, so nobody knows about it. That's really like the first main issue, is what people are gravitating towards are all having similar like thematic elements to it. They're not literally the same show, which I feel like some animation YouTubers like to dismiss quite easily. It's the fact that there's a similar foundation. Because, come on, you guys will bitch non-stop about when Disney had a formula from the 2010s to now. But you aren't willing to do that for indie animation? Come on now.
Yeah, boo.
Like, and I'm not saying this as like, leave Disney alone. No, that giant monster corporation doesn't need my defense.
Their lawyers will do it for them.
Yeah. What we're saying is you have to spread the criticism. And it's not a bad criticism to say, hey, maybe we should diversify what kind of stories we're telling. Because I feel like the only story as of right now that is different enough from Glitch's other shows that are in the works is Lackadaisy, because they partnered up with them. Because even when Lackadaisy had a successful Kickstarter, oh, freaking whoops-a-doodle, 2D animation is hard.
Which is crazy. I mean, it's not crazy for us, but it's like, just for like the audience, just to let us explain. Explain it to me, Lucy, to quote one Ricky Ricardo.
Or like from The Office. Explain this to me like I was 5.
Okay, so Lackadaisy's crowdfund is probably one of the most successful indie crowdfunds ever. I mean, Lackadaisy's pilot did well, but it didn't like do like digital circus numbers or anything. But it did like above and beyond. People were like really into it. And again, because Lackadaisy was a popular comic that was originally published on Tumblr, had a pre-existing audience, which we're gonna notice is gonna be a recurring theme that we'll bring up later. But anyway, I think Lackadaisy ended up making like $5 million. It might have been closer to 6. I don't exactly remember. And the original goal was to have enough money for like a 5-episode like miniseries. Obviously, they realized, they did the math and realized they only had enough to really do 3, which is not 5 episodes.
What do you mean? There's 1, 2, 3, 5. Don't you know, Brave? 3 is the new 5.
I know. I'm like so old. Like, just put me out the pasture. But yeah. So even if you have something that's quote unquote successful, here's the secret, kids. Sometimes you have to make compromises in order to get anywhere. That the idea of truly being indie and mainstream, to me, are just two incompatible ideas. Like, the reality is, when you're making something that you want to sell, you have to sell it to people, and you have to have some sort of financial stability. Like, if you want to be completely indie, like, you're going to be roughing it, but if you want people to actually get paid and have fair wages, it's sorry, guys.
I mean, like, yes, people like Bill Plimpton have made it indie for years, but you know what? He's also done commission work for movies and shows. He's done openings for The Simpsons. He was one of the collaborators for Roger Allers for Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. Like, he's going to do what he needs to stay independent. Same with the Gorillaz. Like, the Gorillaz didn't want to deal with the main industry anymore. So, yeah, if they have to advertise or, like, do a bunch of cross-promotion with brands and such, or, like, advertise, like, a popular speaker or something in their music videos, cool, whatever. It's like, so be it. It's just frustrating when everyone is so excited about the indie animation scene, but they're, again, not taking into consideration how that's going to work.
No, they're like, if you want to be a real artist, you have to suffer and starve. And it's like, no, what the fuck? That doesn't make you a sellout. That makes you, like, realistic. Like, come on.
I don't want to suffer for my art. Like, I'm so glad on top of my writing, on top of this podcast, I have work. I am employed. Because otherwise, it just makes me sad when people are like, yeah, I don't know what my job is going to be if I can't get writing gigs. And it's like, that scares me a little to think about being in that situation. And it's like, thank God for Patreon and stuff like that, but
yeah, even that can only take you so far.
Like, even like Monkey Wrench, again, all hail Monkey Wrench, is so upfront about it, but nobody wants to listen to them. And it's like, hey, let's burst that bubble. No, animation costs a lot, and we're working on like a third of the budget that y'all want.
No, it's like animation, like art in general. Because I actually posted a comment in another reactor who she or they, I'm not sure what pronouns they prefer, but they made like a live stream video about, like, they voted on a show. I think it was like Fiona and Cake, and no one was showing up, and they were like, hey, like, I need to pay my editors and shit. And I just said, hey, fellow editor, like, people don't understand, like, when you're making art, like, a lot of times it's not just like me, like, I have to pay to use Adobe, unfortunately, because that is the standard for, like, YouTube content creation. And don't send me that goddamn picture. It's not the same fucking thing. Like, you have to pay for cloud storage. Like, most studios and like, even independent studios, like they're not going to pay for you to like have your own shit. So you have to front that up. Like you have to front your own equipment. Like being a working artist is hard. I mean, I'm thankful that I have a situation in place that, even if I don't make a shit ton of money, I don't have to worry about that stuff. Most people don't.
Like, there's a reason why there's so much criticism from voice actors, like, who work in anime, being like, yeah, I'm struggling sometimes to make enough money because these freaking anime dub jobs don't pay enough. And it's just like, well, why doesn't Crunchyroll just pay you guys more? Yeah, why don't they?
That is an excellent question.
Mm-hmm.
Where's all that money for the Demon Slayer movie going, Crunchyroll? Hey, don't run away from us! Let's also talk about the other trend that has sadly popped up.
Oh, yeah.
The
one I want to talk about.
Yeah, no, we have to talk about this. Let's talk about the fact that, again, so many of you don't like to support creators equally, which I'm not saying you have to subscribe to every Patreon or something like that. That's absurd. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about here.
What we're talking about here, and even though we did watch the 2 recent like cartoons pilots, which technically not indie pilots, but they're still like pilots, and we wanted to talk about them, and they're cute, but for all the excitement that they've had, along with most indie animation, people aren't showing up to them unless it's Hell of a Boss or Digital Circus, or we'll see how the Gaslight District goes. Like, a lot of y'all, like, it feels like it took forever for the pilot for Homestuck, or Struck, or whatever it's called, to get to at least double-digit millions, because it dragged itself to those points. It wasn't like the instantaneous smash hit that other pilots were. And let's just say there's a pattern of which ones get the least amount of support.
Yeah, I mean, Homestuck's one thing, because I think Homestuck is just very, like, it is from the Tumblr era, and, I think that show came out
10 years too late?
Yeah, 10 years too late, and it does this thing that unfortunately a lot of indie shows kind of do, one of which we'll bring up in a little bit. It feels like, to quote one of my colleagues, it felt more like a proof of concept rather than like an actual pilot. But here's what I actually want to talk about. And you know what? I feel like this is a good little story time. You're all 90s babies, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I am going to assume that you both grew up with Nickelodeon, right?
Yep.
I mean, like, pedantically, I'm a very tail end 80s baby because I was born in 89, but I digress. 90s.
Okay. So, you grow up with all that, Keenan and Kel, Cousin Skeeter, maybe. Yes, some, pretty in common with all that shows, right?
Yep.
And it made Nickelodeon a lot of money and one of the biggest networks for children. And what was gone by like the mid-2000s?
I don't quite know. What was the cast for all that like after the 90s?
Yeah! It's almost like we built a network off of the town of black people. Even the Nick theme was from black people. And then when we made enough money, we gentrified the fuck out of it. It's kind of hilarious how that works.
And they kind of did that like seemingly overnight, because it's not something you really noticed until you take a step back and say, wait a minute.
Yeah, like I didn't notice it at first because when that transition was happening, I was out of the main target demographic for Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
the only thing I watched on Nickelodeon was probably like Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, if I'm being like perfectly honest, because Avatar: The Last Airbender was almost more like a teen show. It was like that weird in between, but I was not, of the age of I watched Nickelodeon like every single day. But that happened a lot, because that happened, Mike, you brought this up last night when we were talking, but like, especially with like the WB, like this, would happen. And this is like a common theme, like, I know I'm white, but I'm pointing this out that I'm noticing this, and I'm white, that like, y'all need to really pay attention to this. But so much of like animation, so much of entertainment music in general has been built off of like Black talent, but y'all don't support them like when it actually counts. So much of like, I feel like our society is, if you've ever watched Our Friend Martin, you wheel it out on the CRTV every year. Martin Luther King does this like Jesus, sacrifice after the kid from the future. Like, Martin knows his future. He's like, don't worry, guys. I have this so that little black boys and little white girls together can be happy. And then racism is solved forever. And then Barack Obama happens, and that's the end of racism. The end.
Well, unfortunately, it's just like racism never dies, sadly, when it could. Because, god damn.
And you don't have to be like a raging bigot either, but it's subconscious, or internalized racism, and to like, and equally important, but not necessarily for this topic, like homophobia. But I feel like a lot in the animation community just doesn't want to have this conversation of, racial bias. That more often than not, they will support shows from like white creators, which there's nothing wrong with. The issue becomes when we're not supporting like other creators that might not necessarily have that platform.
So let's bring up, because a lot of people will be like, it's frustrating because someone wanted to point this out, that a lot of glitch productions cast a lot of white people. And they're like, oh god, are you guys saying that glitch is racist? And it's like, no, but there's some internalized judgment and decision making that can kind of come off slightly racist. Like, even if they don't mean it to. But nobody wants to have that conversation, like you said, because then it gets into the ugliness of the fact that a lot of Black created indie pilots don't get the support that others do. Like, that mostly white creators do. Now, I'm not saying we gotta shut down Has-Been Hotel or Digital Circus and whatever. No, we're not.
Not even that, because Movie Madrona's not even white.
Like, let's just look at these numbers between these Black creative pilots compared to some of the other ones in this playlist I made for this episode. The 3 Tomes came out 3 months ago. It is only at 41,000 views. Okay. Wheels and Roses, the cool Black magical girl roller derby pilot that got released a month ago. 23,000 views.
Ooh.
Skelly Closet Cases, a incredible pilot. One of the most nuanced and complex storytelling pilots out there. 2.9 thousand views.
By the way, shout out to our mutual friend Jalen, who voices one of the characters.
Now, let's compare that to one of the pilots that got crowdfunded and released 2 months ago. Heathens. 2.7 million. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just assuming, if they aren't white, but like the point of it is that like it doesn't even matter like who the creators of Heathens are. Like, no hate to them, even though we don't think your story's very good. Sorry, we're just saying this professionally, but it's like there are so many different stories out there, and then you're all like bitching about glitch. I'm like, bitch, look in the mirror.
This is what's funny. So many animation fans and animation YouTubers love to gush and bitch about the fact that we don't have shows like Kitty Bobo or what was the other one? The Midnighters. Like a lot of that MTV like cartoon pilots and such, like era. And yeah, considering that like no one wants to make that in the indie animation scene, except for maybe Toonrific Tariq, and nobody wants to make these urban, young adult focused animated pilots. And the ones that are taking freaking forever to do so because of how much time and resources goes into animating a pilot, even if they don't want to do a full fleshed out animated pilot. Like, it's funny because I Don't Want to Be a Magical Girl got huge by being an animatic with one scene animated. And of course, obviously, we're talking about this once the recent episode dropped and the announcement of Mercury Works, or
Filmworks.
Mercury Filmworks is going to wholly animate the first episode.
But then, you'll have, like, the animation fans will just be like, wait, Kiana Mai is black and Japanese. But, Kiana Mai has years of fandom and a pre-existing platform.
Yep.
It's like, a lot of y'all don't really want to support either creators of color, unless it's, like, something that tickles your Tumblr shipping fancy, or it happens to be kind of similar to Hell of a Boss, Has Been, or Digital Circus. Which, I'm sorry, Heathens, I was kind of curious to see what this one was going to be. And unfortunately, due to its it's funny, its runtime cannot be the sole reason why it was underwhelming. Because it does a bad job telling you its world, its characters, or what the overall arching plot could be, or lead into.
And it was, like, funny, because people said, oh, this is, like, a rip-off of, like, Has Been Helluva. And it's a quote-unquote rip-off, not for the reasons that people are thinking. And this is where I'm actually going to defend Viv's and, like, Has Been's world building, especially for, like, Hell of a Boss. Like, both pilots of Hell of a Boss do, like, a solid enough serviceable job of, like, establishing their world and, like, how hell works. Heathens, unless you told me, I would not know that this show took place in hell.
Yeah, that's a problem, because we don't really get an explanation of who these characters are, what they do, and where the show is taking place. We just know vaguely it takes place in hell, and we're just kind of dropped into the story, like, in media res.
It's like someone took the action sequence from an anime series and was just like, look at this cool sequence. This show must be amazing if this is what you're watching. And you're sitting there wondering, who are these characters? How do they know each other? What is the overall stake and point of their friendship? And what is going to make me want to come back to it? Which nobody seems to really want to say is a big problem with Heathens, because that bugged me throughout the whole runtime. And that's a big problem with a lot of creatives. Okay, maybe you crowdfunded and you can't get more than 6 to 10 minutes. Or at the very longest, 20 minutes. Then you gotta, and here's the thing that a lot of animation fans are going to scream their lungs out at. If you can't get a proper story, and tell it in a way that makes it compelling and exciting within 6 to 10 minutes, or even at best 20, you gotta cut some shit. And I know that is such a dirty, forbidden thought among animation fans, because they are always like, no, stop cutting stuff.
And I'm like, baby, if you want to tell stories, you have to learn to edit. I am sorry. I am saying this as an editor and as a writer. Like, you have to, like, kill your darlings. I'm sorry.
Like, stop being so invested into it. Like, yes, sometimes cutting too much stuff can and will hurt the movie. We saw that with Elio. We know about that with Wish. But when you're indie, you really don't have the excuse of executive meddling. whatever you do, you put it out there. And if someone says it's overstuffed and needs to be trimmed, that is something you need to take seriously. For example, there's this one pilot I watched called Guys Next Door, which is about a trio of young adults who just so happen to get wrapped up in a trio of assassins assignment and what have you, and then become friends at the end. But boy howdy does the 25-minute pilot for Guys Next Door, which granted is kind of impressive because I like the art style and it does have Pamela Adlon in the voice cast and someone who is either doing a really good Will Arnett style BoJack voice for one of the characters. And it's got a few cool ideas, but boy howdy, they shoved an entire season's plot into one episode, and it is way too much. You notice how, they're just adding and adding and adding and adding, or saying a line here and there to imply something deeper, and it's I don't care about half of these characters. That's a problem. And that's why it's some of these do fall short. Wastelandia is only 6 minutes. And while I do like the characters enough to watch maybe another episode, I know nothing about the world that they are in. Is it a modern world? Because by the time the pilot ends, everything's on fire. So it's okay, so is this a dystopian wasteland? Or what? Why worry about stuff like how your art assignment or getting a job or being social enough to be popular with other people if I don't know how your world works?
Mm-hmm.
And Wheels and Roses has the exact opposite problem. Cool world idea, cool premise. Again, magical girl roller derby. That's cool. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
These characters are flat. They're basic anime archetypes. And yes, you only had 8 minutes, but I don't know much about these characters.
Archetypes are fine. They're a good starting point that you could do something very interesting with, but if that's all that there is, and this is the part that's wild to me, Skelly, to me is the indie of indie animation. This is indie at its core. You go the film circuit, you are putting your own resources and money into really grungy cool art shit. It does more in 10 minutes than a lot of these pilots do. And Skelly's story might not be the most revolutionary, but what makes Skelly work is that it finds a way to make a bunch of scenes that are separate for each other and are seemingly this is non-linear storytelling, but it makes it work in the premise of this is a therapy session.
Yeah, it has a good hook to it, and they are very economic with the time that they have. I'm pretty sure the pilots only no more than 15 minutes, but you know exactly, at least for the most part, who these characters are, what is going on, and it's charming enough that you actually want to keep watching.
It's about a young woman suffering from depression who has metaphorical and literal skeletons in her closet, who, while suffering through the day job, at night works as a bartender/waitress at this supernatural pub that her skeleton best friend works at. That's cool. That's a compelling little idea. Well, I guess people don't like cool and creative ideas because nobody showed up for it. And then you have something like El Guapo versus the Narco's Vampires, which is, I would argue, still pretty indie, all things considered, even though, yes, you can hear John DiMaggio and Gray Griffin in the voice cast. First of all, they are it's like James Gunn. If he likes working with you, you're going to get work from him. So, if I worked once with Jorge Gutierrez, I would be down with what whatever he wants me to be in and such. If he wants me for a major role or a minor role, cool, whatever. But it's mostly animatic, and it tells a full story and has enough of a cliffhanger to be like, yeah, I would like to see more of this. I mean, come on, it's like Planet Terror mixed with vampires and luchadors.
Yeah, who wouldn't want more of that?
And you know what's like crazy? I knew exactly what the tone was going to be, because if you've ever met Jorge, like even briefly, or have been to any of his discussions, you will know like a lot of his story time is very not safe for work. And a lot of it is strip clubs at Tijuana, which is exactly what it was there. So when I saw it there, I was like, yes!
And it's so funny because everyone pulled out their pitchforks and crosses, and please think of the children moments with Fixed, with Genndy Tartakovsky, even though Genndy was going to still be making more Primal, which I know we're going to talk about this later, but god damn it, y'all. Did y'all freak out about Fixed, and that's why Primal is once again with season 3 about Spear and Fang? Because y'all wouldn't be able to handle an entirely different story, even though Genndy has wanted to make Primal an anthology series?
You know what? Like, my theory, for at least for Jorge, is because I feel like a lot of people in animation Twitter were not alive when El Tigre was airing. So they don't have, like, the same, like, how can the person from my childhood do this?
It's like, did you see the Book of Life? There's a whole scene, like, minor joke, where a kid is selling churros, and then a bird poops on him, and he's like, frosted churros! And, like, do you see the designs of these characters? There's a whole sequence in El Tigre when El Tigre's mom becomes a superhero again, and there's, like, a few lines where it's like, this is something he likes.
Yeah, like, this is, yeah, she is, mommy thick. Me like mommy.
I do love that scene in the Tijuana strip club where El Guapo gets pushed down onto the ground, slides across the... I don't even want to touch that ground. And especially in this world of vampires and narcos. And the 3 security guards are like, hey, look, this guy doesn't appreciate the human body and creative expression, and they start beating him up.
Yeah, gee, I wonder who that joke was aimed towards.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder.
And it's so funny because everyone loved, like, it's almost at 1 million. I mean, again, if y'all were so supportive of creators of color, this thing should have shot off harder than anything else ever. It's that weird dynamic of, like, what animation fans want with their adult animation. They're like, I'm tired of either Family Guy or just everything being hyper violent. No, you're not. You're not tired of either of those things because Family Guy is still on the air, and every adult animated show right now, except for maybe the rare few, are hyper violent because y'all gravitate towards that shit. Sorry, it's like, you can't complain and then keep supporting the thing that you're complaining about. That's just like stabbing your own foot and then being mad that, like, this knife's in my foot.
But then I can't complain about it on, like, the Child Predator app.
Oh, God. I mean, like, yes, I could maybe say as a nitpick, El Guapo versus the Narcos Vampires has maybe a little too much going on at 40 minutes, but it is so fun and filled with so much joyous energy. And hell, I think El Guapo is going to be a new bisexual icon if you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. He is, like, a daddy bisexual icon. Like, hands down. Like, top 10 god tier. Like, come to me, daddy. But, like, here's the thing about the 40 minutes. To me, this is, like, a compromise of it being an hour. Because to me, this is, like, you know, like the FX pilot style. Like, you have, like, that one, like, longer episode, but most of the episodes are going to be, like, 24 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Like, for those who don't know, like, a network TV hour is usually, like, 42 minutes, not including commercials. So maybe that's what he was going for?
I could see that because a lot goes on in this pilot. It's like on top of the extremely expressive opening cinematic sequence, which, godly, I love Jorge's art style. It is so freaking good.
I know.
I love so much attention and personality is shoved into every little thick
here's
inch.
just so style and vibe because I'm sure I've told this story, but like Jorge, like I met a couple of years ago. He's like, I was like, oh, this Nickelodeon thing. He's like, hey, let me just draw you a quick picture and like a signature. Just did it on the spot. Nicest dude in the world. I really wish him the best for everything.
Like, I want to see El Guapo versus Narco's vampires. Even if it just becomes like a limited series. I want to see more of this. And he is the nicest dude. I met him back at Animation is Film in 2022. I think, yeah, it was 2022. And sweetest guy. And I love his work. And I know some people have criticism for like the writing in his stuff, but I love watching his stuff. I don't care that his
It is
writing...
so unapologetically Mexican.
And it's so earnest as well. It's just like, it's so cool, and yet people are just not... I mean, 843,000 views is not something to, like, joke about. But
especially when he, like, this pilot was kind of shadow dropped.
Like, he put out, like, signs of saying, like, yeah, I'm working on a little pilot, and then BAM! It was released, and, like, 1 month ago, and everyone was like, wait, what? Wait, he put out a pilot? And then you watch it, and it's like, this is so freaking cool. Or we go to what was our surprise favorite pilot that we talked about, or that we watched, ERSATZ. Which, again, not 1 million views with 853,000 views. Boy, howdy, is this like... This puts so many pilots to shame.
It is. Like, it is so disgustingly good. Like, the quality of the animation, which by the way, this animation was... Yeah, which by the way, this animation was done in Blender Eevee, which is like, not Cycles. Like, Blender Eevee is like the basic bitch renderer that you use for Blender. It is nothing special, but oh my god, the animation looks like something that you would see in like an award nominee like sizzle reel.
And it's also so wholly unique among the animation pilots. Like, I'm looking forward to like Far-Fetched and stuff. I can't wait to watch that queer gothic modern Scooby-Doo nonsense with that one. But with ERSATZ, it's World War I. It's about a group of soldiers, probably through the British Army and military and such. I think it is actually like British like soldiers and such, and not because of the accents.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they have like the royal uniform and like there's some like stuff in the background.
And it's all about how the soldiers are continuously put through hell, which, yeah, war is hell, but World War I was like a special kind of hell, which this is what it plays off of, the horrors and nightmares of World War I. And the fact that, oh, you died? Well, too bad, we're going to bring you back, and you're going to have to go back out there. And just the fact that some of the dialogue there is like, oh, we don't need those masks, they don't use the gas anymore. And it's like, what's the gas?
Yeah, what's the gas, guys? But, like, the other thing is that the main character, like, he's been allegedly fighting so long that we don't even know if he's even that person anymore or if he's just, like, an amalgamation of different parts. Like, his humanity has been literally stripped away from him.
Like, all the people... Well, and it's funny because some of the characters look human, but... who knows how this happens, or like the process of this machine that keeps bringing you back and back again after dying. Like, it changes you. Like, there's this one who looks like a warthog with a gas mask on. There's a guy who looks like a zombie. There's this one general who looks like she has a shark head. It's like, oh, is this like taking the metaphysical and literal subtext of war turning people into monsters? Yeah. Especially with that one guy that the main character encounters who's like, I would like your bread, but I can tell you a little bit about yourself if you do.
Oh, that's the like the Grim Reaper kind of design.
Yeah, and when you find out at the end that is that like he wants the bread not for himself but to feed the dog. And you're telling me you're not going to give that guy a dog a piece of bread, especially with this dystopian World War One nightmare? Like it is so atmospheric, and just the backgrounds and environments are gorgeously painted, and the animation is definitely doing that like faux stop motion, like limited frames.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of shades of Arcane, like the way that they're kind of rendered.
I was thinking that, and even Flow, because both of those are Blender.
Our Blender, yeah.
And I was so amazed because I found this pilot by accident. Like I was just like bullshitting through TikTok and whatever, as long as that my algorithm stays good and not becomes a cesspool because of what's going on with it. And I was like, oh, what's this? Is it like a video game? Because it kind of looks like it could be a video game, like a cool indie horror game made by like a small team in like Hungary and such, or Ukraine. No, it's like it's an actual animated pilot, and we watched it last night, and we were like, "Holy macaroni! Is this what a lot of people can do?" Like, oh my god! And that's a thing that like, and maybe they don't want to think too hard or considerately take the time to pin down the tone that they want, because a lot of like popular pilots kind of have the same like Tumblr era, like slightly on the spectrum gravitational pulls. Like The Art of Murder has like a slightly pseudo anime look. The Three Tomes is heavily inspired by anime and Twilight and what have you. And some of the little design decisions for something like A for Angel are very much anime themed or vibed and such, which is fine enough, but I want there to be like more to it because I'm not just easily impressed by like oh, this is just like my anime, I'm going to watch it. It's like, no, it's like I don't care if your art style is anime adjacent. I want the story and writing to be interesting and fascinating, because I think a lot of people who don't work in writing or animation are suffering from that, because A for Angel kind of suffers from that. A cool premise of playing up the world and setting of shoulder angels and devils, but then you pull back from that premise to see the whole picture, and it's like, are these actually characters, or are they just like archetypes made for shipping? Which is sometimes something you could heavily criticize even the most popular stuff with doing, because it's like who is Millie outside of Imp and being
She's
Moxie's
wife.
It's like, okay, but who is that? Who is she beyond that? What are her drives?
She's badass. She does the fighting. She's cool.
Because outside of like the design aesthetic for A for Angel, what do we know about the characters? Not a whole lot outside of, I maybe don't want to be the shoulder devil. I want to be a shoulder angel. While the angel is just kind of disassociated with everything. Okay, I mean, that's an idea, but it's not a character. Like, I wanted to know maybe a little more about why they feel like that. And I mean, they kind of give it to you. But then, it's funny because then there's, what was it? Accordions, Jeffrey, and Mary Melodica. It's only 2 minutes. But you got this cool stop-motion claymation art style. No dialogue outside of accordion and melodica noises. And you know the dynamic between these two characters without a literal spoken word of English coming out of them.
Out of the two cartoon shorts that were released, that one was my favorite. And There's a little bit of a bias because I actually went to high school with the creator Louis Zong, and you can tell this was done by a musician based on like how the dialogue was written. It's such a cool and creative way to tell that story.
And again, it's only 2 minutes, but it does more with those 2 minutes than anything else. Like, than a lot of pilots do when they have even more. Like, triple that stuff. Like, it makes me want to search out these pilots because I want to see if other people are struggling in this same way. We didn't get time to watch Spice Frontier, but I've seen, like, clips and pieces of it that I would love to see more of it. Like, I want to see, I actively want to watch it. But again, the support is not equally coming in. And no, Glitch is not becoming like Disney level big. If they're still having to rely on viewership and merchandise sales, that's not really corporate animation.
No.
Like, I'm sorry that Glitch and Spindlehorse are like the only two like big indie studios that you can think of. But there's like hundreds of creatives out there working on their own pilots who are not going to get a fraction of that success because they don't have either the traction, the time, the budget, whatever. And that's what's going to kill indie animation until they maybe get picked up by a TV show. It's funny because it's like they want the stability of a certain time period for TV animation, but they don't want the reality behind why that time period was a thing. Because a lot of studios have billions of dollars of investment into it, where they can afford to not only make more seasons, more yearly releases, but also merchandise for your stuff. Here, a lot of them are like, pray that I can make a pilot and that someone sees it, until something like Glitch had to, well, not Glitch had to, but Glitch got contacted by both Amazon and Netflix saying like, hey, can we have a show of yours on our service? And I'm sure they were like, yes, we'll take that financial stability, but we'll also need to, like, I don't even think it's like as financially stable of a deal that a lot of bad animation fans think it is, because if they can put their stuff on Netflix or Amazon, should there not be enough money? Probably not, depending on how those deals went through. Because Netflix doesn't own the digital circus and what have you and such.
Yeah, it's only a distribution deal. It's not like Netflix has like financial stake in the production.
It's like a few steps forward have been taken, but a few steps back is still a constant situation. Because it's funny, everyone wants to do the indie thing until you realize that a lot of people who were at one time on social media or YouTube do not want to be on YouTube anymore. So unfortunately, they have to work hard enough and be financially stable enough until maybe a studio can pick up and front the bill. And that maybe you can keep enough of the creativity from the indie to studio functions in the process. But again, it's easier said than done with all this. And people want a simple, straightforward answer. Again, production in anything, film, animation, live action, whatever, is not a straight line. It's a squiggly line, baby. So it's... Is there anything else you guys want to talk about with indie animation, or have we basically gone over the fact that indie animation is starting to feel similar in some ways, not in the ways people think of, and the fact that creators of color are not getting supported the same way?
Oh, you know what? This is a suggestion. I think in the show notes, we should put a link to some of these pilots, so hopefully, even if it's just like a couple dozen views, like, a lot of this stuff is great, guys. Like, for everyone who says, oh, everything looks color, Indian, everything looks the same, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, here, this don't look the same. go watch. Go support people. Be a good person.
I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people like to complain about that, but no. Like, it doesn't matter if it's studio or indie. It's like, no. Aesthetically, Digital Circus does not look like Gaslight District or Lackadaisy or Knights of Guinevere. The only one you can say that to is Has Been and Hell of a Boss, but that's because they take place in the same universe. You want that to click. Because if you do like two different art styles for that and then you want them to cross over,
oh yeah, like that art style is hard enough. You want like the artist to just, jump into the nearest like pit of lava.
It's like when Lilo and Stitch was super popular for Disney, so they had all the Disney shows cross over with. So it's like, okay, some of these are better than others, but then you get like the more stylized visual looks like American Dragon and Kim Possible, and maybe to a degree the Proud Family. They don't look like they exist in the same universe.
No, not at all.
No.
Even the Recess one was a stretch.
Like, I'm sure Lilo saw Kim Possible, and it's like, oh, wow, Kim Possible, but also, what's wrong with your head? It's like the old Red Letter Media meme. Oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
Can't be any worse than the AI Kim Possible art that I saw that almost killed me.
Oh no.
Like, no, literally. Did I ever tell you this story?
No. Tell it, we'll end it on this story.
Okay, so another Bree story time. Me and Gio were getting ready to do prep work for our Return to Zombie Island review, so we figured we'd watch the original Zombie Island the night before. Turns out that movie still slaps. So then after the fact, we were shooting the shit, and I had, like, by accident, like, I forget what exactly started the conversation, but I stumbled upon, like, some AI art and DeviantArt, because I think we were talking about, like, how bad and, like, generic some of this shit is. I don't even know, like, how this even happened. But I stumbled onto this account, and one of the things that was on there was this AI art of, like, Kim Possible, and then I started to drink water, and I started to choke on my water, so, like, I was above water drowning, and I was in my chair, like, I couldn't talk, like, I was literally dying, like, I was gasping for air. Meanwhile, my poor co-host is on, like, the other line, like, in real time, he's like, are you good, girl? I'm like, no!
No, God, AI art is so freaking ugly, and it's like...
It was so bad, it almost killed me.
Oh,
like,
God.
That's not even hyperbole. And I was wheezing and coughing, and, like, I couldn't, like, talk for, like, almost the next day.
Oh, God. Animation and art is in such a chaotic place right now. But... really, if you really do love animation, you do have to start supporting everyone. At the very least, viewership and sharing and liking and talking about this stuff. Like, equally that you would a Digital Circus or a Hell of a Boss or whatever. Because if you want indies to survive, then they all need to start surviving. Even if some indie pilots come out that kind of suck. Like Heathens. Like, sorry, Heathens. Like, you have good animation, and I like the Hellhound designs, but writing and storytelling could use a work.
Also, please hire more writers.
But if you guys need help finding any of the shorts that we talked about, we will include them in the show notes for this episode.
Now, next time, it's up in the air. Normally, I would like to have a plan, but with everything going on, and then, like, is the Super Bowl this coming week? Or
yes, it is.
We're probably going to take a break and then come back maybe to talk about Scarlet or, actually, I think by that point, GOAT will be out by then. So we'll come up with something next time.
But until next time, Bree, where can everyone find you online?
Well, if you want to see my surviving ass, because I survived back Impossible AI art, you can follow me at Crazy Lemur.bsky. That's social. I am also on Instagram at Lemur's Rule 1 if you want to see my slightly more normal side. And my other PSA, if you hadn't hear it before, hey guys, look, if you're a great artist and you want to write, like, please hire more writers. Like, have a writer on your creative team, please. I am begging you. Have someone who just writes.
Seriously.
And Cameron?
Well, you can find me on Blue Sky at camsiview.biz. I have my own website called camsiview.biz, also where I talk about animation films and shows from around the world, called The Other Side of Animation. I am also a contributor to Media Magpies, your new one-stop shop for pop culture, TV, film, discussion, discourse. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube at Renegade Pop Culture or at Organoid Zero. You can find us on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You need to escape, so do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.